And
Okay, you can go now.
we're recording anyways. But yes, hi, this is Philip Wesley from Radio DMG, and I'm here with
Mike Anthony from Lethurst.com.
and we're here with at NDK 2011 in a hotel room with
And then William points at Michael Sinterniklaas.
William.
Would you say your name was William?
No, Philip.
Why did I... Philip William?
Philip Wesley. The Mile High.
It's the altitude.
It must be. Drink that water.
All
Anyways,
right,
no.
All right, Daniel.
What? Daniel Craig. Okay.
You
actually,
have a striking resemblance.
Oh, thank you. Anyways, let's start it out with a... Go ahead.
All right. You've done a lot of voice credits, and you've done a lot of directing credits. If you had to choose one, which one would you choose?
Oh my. Honestly, I don't want to give one of those, it's like picking your favorite child answers, because I think everyone knows which child is their favorite. But in this case, I think one really helps me keep sane with the other. If I do too much of one, I need to do the other, and it feels like a break from what I've just been doing. I've got to say, as much fun as it is to transform and become another character and play as an actor, there's a lot more agency and influence you can have as a director. And I feel like when I see a role that I portrayed, I can be proud of it, but I really know that it's certainly in this field, it's really a collaborative effort between the creators, the writers, the adapters, if we're talking about anime, and the voice director, who we heavily rely on for context of any kind. So I feel like it's a different kind of satisfaction for each. And if I've been directing too much with all those responsibilities, once I get into a booth, I feel like I'm on vacation and I'm playing and it's wonderful. But then again, too much of that, and I want to feel like I'm getting my hands dirty and doing something else. I don't want to be lame, but I can't really choose.
That's fine.
He likes to do both of his children.
All right.
Anywho,
Man,
so
Theodore, you have a sick mind.
Oh, no. We can always go NSFW if needed. But we have a tag for that. But you've worked with Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and then anime and stuff. What was it like working with Nickelodeon? I've heard some stories.
Really?
Like horror stories. Any horror stories for Nickelodeon?
My Nickelodeon experiences have been wonderful, and lucky me, I'm about to embark on another one. Honestly, in my experience, I mean, there are a lot of things. Each network has their quirks and their agenda. Nickelodeon is big on one to grow on. There's usually like a life lesson at the end of the episode for most Nickelodeon shows, which is very different than Cartoon Network. They get to be a little more, whackety schmackety out there. But when I was doing, for instance, I don't know, Kappa Mikey, it was great. They loved us, we loved them. The show I'm about to do that I can't talk about, but I wish I could talk about it. I really, 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 really can't. It's like early talks, but it's looking good. It's a children's book series. That's all I can say. But like one that I grew up with and I'm really excited about. So far, I really respect Nickelodeon as a network that cares a lot about the content of what they're putting out. It's not just filling space and selling ad time. Depending on where you go, it can sort of feel like that, and I feel like they really are an integral brand. They have a lot of integrity. So I wish I had something sexier and crazier to tell, but Nickelodeon's been great, and everyone I've met there's been wonderful. They remember my name. That's always nice, and my name is hard to remember, as you well know, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Like we talked about earlier, like you've been in the industry for a while. How has it really changed since you first started voice acting?
Oh my gosh. Well, my first start in voice acting of any kind was in anime.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like 17 years ago.
There was Urusei Yatsura?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's that. Urusei Yatsura has come up a few times. You didn't see the dub, did you?
I'm a big fan. I looked it up online, and it was interesting.
And you still wanted to meet with me? Oh my gosh. There were some challenges there. It was the early days, and there were some people involved that just they cared a lot, and they tried to make it something that perhaps it wasn't. There are a lot of things that were firsts on that. I mean, there weren't many things being dubbed back then. Mm-hmm. I owe that whole experience. The first thing I did actually was Bubblegum Crisis, just before Urusei Yatsura, and they were like, "Oh, this kid's great. We should use him for Ataru," and I was psyched. and I was good friends with the Lum actress, and we'd like watch movies and stuff, and totally bonded. It was really fun. It was an ensemble record, which is still not really done. I know ADV, I think, was it Ghost Stories? I don't think it was Ghost Stories. It was something else where they tried doing a group record, but they had everyone isolated in different booths. We tried to record it the way they do in Japan, where everyone's in one booth. And it was challenging. It was really challenging. I remember at one point, one of the guys in the cast was a cop, and he was on his lunch break coming in to record part of an episode, and I remember voice acting, waiting, looking around, checking for the next cue, voice acting, looking down at my right and seeing a gun, and voice acting again, and thinking, this is an unusual experience, not usually a live firearm in the booth. But, yeah, so changes. Well, now there are no guns in the booth, whereas there were in the early days of anime. The entire industry, from the business standpoint to the artistic, adaptation process, is completely different. I mean, back then we were chasing tape with SMPTE timecode stripes. Pro Tools was, I wouldn't say infancy, but in its toddler-dumbness. This is before Pro Tools 3 was released, and Pro Tools 3 was a massive thing. And this is when, if anyone was an old Mac user, Macs were running NuBus architecture. Oh my gosh. I remember at Southland Studios, where I got my start, thank you Randy Drew for giving me a job, even though I made the worst coffee in recording. Usually you start at a studio, you make coffee for a year, and then they might let you touch a button. I made such crap coffee that they promoted me quickly. That's a hot tip for all you aspiring PAs.
So go 9 to 5 with the coffee.
Yeah, go full dolly on that. But I mean, so we were using a system. At some point, we upgraded to a system called Session 8. It was made by Digital Design, which is now owned by Avid, and it was an 8-track that ran on our 486 50 DX2 SX, not even DX, and it was really hard to do all this work. There was also, I mean, this is like a really deep question, actually. I mean, the way things were licensed was very different. I think back then there weren't as many brokers involved. You would speak directly to the production company, and primarily what they were interested in was not what the MG was for, securing enough upfront money. They just wanted to protect the integrity of the brand. So they wouldn't even license to you if they didn't think you were going to treat it well. Now it's different. It's gotten to the point where I think a lot of productions, even in Japan, really require some international funding to even get the show off the ground. Everything's more expensive. There's less airtime available in Japan. There's less shelf space available, here to sell stuff. So it's become a lot riskier to even do it from a business standpoint, which I think is unfortunate. The other thing is, I mean, artistically, this is where I get on my nerdy soapbox. When I first was an anime fan, there was less of it, and it was really hard to come by. So we really cherished every bit of it. That was pre-internet, pretty much anything. But at some point, I think there became like sort of a glut in the industry of Me Too titles that they thought, oh, this sold well somewhere else. Maybe we'll make more of those and sell it, and make some money. There was
like Sailor Moon to Wedding Peach, etc.
Well, I won't name anything specifically, but yeah, that's a fine example. And I think anime got diluted a little bit. And there are a lot of reasons now for it famously doing poorly financially. It's really tough for everyone I know in the industry, both in the States and especially in Japan. But I don't know. Maybe if there's a silver lining, it'll be that it'll pare back down to just the best shows will rise up, and it'll once again be really special. I don't know. I really love anime, and I really want to see it do well, and I work really hard to try to help promote it and get attention for good shows. But anyway, it's been a challenge. So it's just been a roller coaster. I mean, in the past 17 years, which is not a short amount of time, it's gone from being profitable. Actually, I remember, it's funny, we're recording this on September 11th. I opened my studio in New York in 2000, a block away from the center of the Twin Towers. And when that all went down, I remember a lot of businesses in my area, in the entire city, like advertising for one, took a huge hit, and a lot of jingle houses at the time, they would write music for commercials, they just folded up and never came back. Lots of businesses like that, even in recording. And anime, I felt really fortunate to be a part of because, it sort of bucked market trends. It was just, it had a small hardcore fan base, and they wanted to collect, so that kept going. And actually, I was able to not ask for any government. What's the word?
Stipend?
No, the word assistance. Yeah, government assistance. A lot of businesses in my area, right on my block actually, was like the last block to be unfrozen when they had the frozen zone downtown. And I know there was a church on my block that was getting help. There was a like a 1-hour photomat guy. He was doing terribly. All the restaurants, of course, they had no business and all the food was going bad. It was terrible. But because I went in there with a friend of mine who's a cop, and took one of my hard drives so I could continue working at a friend's studio uptown, and was able to stay in business. I mean, I lost a lot of money and gear, but I didn't need to. I was able to let other businesses that were doing worse, get the assistance they needed and not take away from that. Now it's different. Margins are much thinner, turnarounds are much faster. It's really, really hard.
So, since you did bring it up, do you remember what you were doing that day?
Well, actually, yeah, sure do. I mean, so wow, this is going to be like the big bummer podcast.
Oh.
All right, September 11, 2001. The day before, I had been working at the studio, and I was working really late. Actually, my mom's birthday is September 10th, so I've been working hard. Went out, took my mom out, celebrated with her, got her home, and then went back to the studio to finish because I had tons to do. And I thought, oh, I'm so tired. Should I stay late or come in early? And I was like, you know what? I don't want to procrastinate. I'm here. Let me just bang it out, and then I'll get up a little bit later. And then I woke up in the morning to my friend, my high school friend, who's now a New York City detective at the time. He was a police officer, but now he's a detective. He just came into, we're neighbors as well. He came into my apartment, we had each other's keys, and he was like, I need to grab your phone. Plane hit the Twin Towers, and I've got to, my phone's not working, I've got to test yours. And I was like, whatever, Chris, stop making up stories. Just take my phone, I don't care. But even though it sounded like a tall tale, and he's a prankster, it was like there was a disturbance in the force. I just couldn't go back to sleep. So I turned on the radio, and Howard Stern was, back in the old days when he was still in terrestrial radio, he was just talking about this nonstop, and I was like, what the heck is going on? So I get up, all crazy and disheveled, and Chris was newly married, and he was like, I've got to go to the station, don't leave my wife, just be with her no matter what happens, I'm going to get in touch with you somehow, just stay in touch. We were part of a kung fu school back then. One of our training brothers was just down the street. Actually, strangely, I was on 15th Street, he was on 14th Street. 14th Street was the line for the frozen zone. You couldn't cross the line unless you had a proof of your address being below 14th Street. So I couldn't go a block to see my friend without him coming to get me. So we ended up, I go out with Sheila. This is the morning of, one tower's fallen, one's still standing. We go out in the street. It's the most impossibly beautiful day in New York. I mean, gorgeous, clear, not too hot, not too cold. And we're walking down the street, and I remember seeing one tower going, I know that from where we're standing on 8th Avenue, I can see, or we're on 7th then. Anyway, you can see both towers, right? Both? Is one in front of the other? Is one down? What's going on? I'd grabbed a Bloomberg radio. They had this promotion. They were shipping out free radios to everyone in New York, and it only tuned in Bloomberg. So we're listening to the news on that. People are crowded around cars and taxi cabs, listening to any news station they can get in. Everyone's confused. And I remember standing there with Sheila, and we're looking around. Everyone's sort of in a daze, and we just see the tower start to crumble, and the second tower. And I was glad there was someone there that I knew, because we just immediately grabbed each other and squeezed, and we're like screaming, "Oh my God! Oh my God!" And I remember the first thing I thought was, "There's no way the people are out of there. Oh my God! There's people inside that thing going down." And then, you know how like in these situations you'll see something that just sort of takes you out of it, like something that's sort of unexpected. And for me, it was weird to see that with all the smoke billowing out of this collapsing building, it was sparkling. It's something that I didn't really see in all the video footage. I guess it wasn't high resolution enough, but there was so much glass in that smoke that it was just twinkling. It was so weird. And so I was, about a mile away from the building when I went down. And I know a lot of people that live down there who were across the street, and the stories from them are, I mean, mine's quite at arm's length and fine. And for people who had to listen to people jumping, from the building, it's a whole other experience. But it was also really incredible to be in New York just after that. It was eerie that there were no planes anywhere in the sky, except for the occasional jet, protecting us from whoever trying to fly or whatever. And then New York got confused and wanted to do something. And before there was an organized effort to get batteries and flashlights or whatever and support the people going down, the first responders. My friends who were Chinese acupuncturists were massaging first responders, and even the dogs, the rescue dogs, they were like doing like a massage and shiatsu on all these people and service animals. Oh gosh. But it was also really beautiful to see how New York came together to help people out. And friends of mine who are conspiracy theorists and pretty anti lots of things, government, were literally waving flags and like singing anthems. It was a complete transformation.
Well, please, like the last question goes to you. Sorry, you had to follow that up.
The question I was saying, like, happy question.
Happy question.
So, how has this industry, changed your life? Like, how has it like affected you in a way that makes you happy?
The first time I recorded anything, this is again North Carolina, Wilmington, Southland Studios. I recorded. This is, I guess, was it the audition for Bubblegum Crisis, original Bubblegum Crisis? I remember just begging, "Is it okay if I got a playback? I just kind of want to see what I sounded like," and hearing my voice come out of an animated mouth for the first time is life changing. I've recently been working on some shows with young kids, and to watch them, I'm always cognizant of if it's someone's first time, it's going to blow their freaking mind when they see it happen. So I'm always like, hey, want to see what you did? And they come out and do stuff. I just did this movie with like John DiMaggio, Whoopi Goldberg, to Matthew Modine, James Woods, Wallace Shawn. And this friend of mine who's been in a ton of movies, HBO series. He's a great actor, Otto. He was in Garden State. He was the African student, foreign exchange student.
You've seen that.
And anyway, so I had him come in at the end of this thing. We needed someone who could do good accent work. This character's like Guyanese, so he does it, and it's great. And but I knew he'd never done animation before, so he comes out of the booth. I'm like, hey, Otto, you want to see this? Experienced actor and a cool dude. I hit play, and he just starts spazzing out like a little schoolgirl. He's like, oh my God, that's so cool. He's high-fiving me. Anyway, that's really incredible. And I was already a fan, so to become a part of these worlds that otherwise don't really exist, other than being a part of building the fantasy, is extraordinary. I used to get depressed after watching anime because I'd be so into these worlds and characters, but know that I could never be a part of them or meet them because they're all fake. They're all made up. And to go a step further, I've been to Japan since then and met the creators of shows that I loved, like one of the directors of Bubblegum Crisis, who I thanked and said my first job in the industry was this, and one of my first OVAs that I was a huge fan of was this, and I even got to play guitar in one of the songs, Rock Me, and he was like, soul. And then he reaches behind a desk and out of nowhere pulls a guitar and says, play. And I was like, what? That was like 10 years ago. But I played a little Rock Me, and he gave me a soul. And yeah, it was great. So I get to meet my heroes. I went to AIC Studios and I picked up the Goddess Hotline from Oh My Goddess. They have it there. It's a real physical phone with a sign. And yeah, I'm living the dream. I don't have to grow up. I'm a total Peter Pan anyway, so I get to play.
Thank you very much for doing the interview. Yes, this has been Philip Wesley with Radio DMG and
Mike Anthony with Letherist.com.
Whoa, and, I thought your name was Theodore.
And
didn't you say your name was Theodore? I've been Michael Sinterniklaas. I've been a lot of other people. Snicky. That's one of the kinder nicknames I've heard.
Oh, okay. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Handshaking.
Thank you.
Sound of handshaking.
Yep.